I'm sure you've all heard it before. Keep politics out of video games, which is usually followed up by all video games are political. I believe that misunderstands the whole point of the sentiment of wanting to keep politics out of video games in the first place. Sure, if you really boil it down, all video games are upholding someone's values. The question is, are they upholding values that everyone can agree on, or at least in a nuanced way, or is it just following one set of ideals that are a hot-button issue in the modern day? Is the problem really that video games have politics in them, or is it just that far too many feel like political propaganda? In my opinion, it's very much the latter. Let's take a game like The Legend of Zelda, for example. Yes, it has markets, typically a kingdom, and it typically has strains of politics in it. The thing is, it never goes into depth what Zelda's policies are, whether she'd be more of a Democrat or a Republican, for example. For the most part, the only moral stance that Zelda takes is that the villains, typically demonic figures that literally want to end all of humanity and usher in darkness, are wrong. I would hope that isn't seen as a hot-button issue and there isn't broad support for a demon king that wants to wipe out humanity. They're pretty universal themes that I think anyone can agree with. Even the softest Ganondorf gets is still very subjugation, which I'd imagine most people oppose literal dictators. Now compare that to, let's say, E-cleansing resistance. I omitted most of the first word, but I imagine many of you know what I'm talking about. That's a very extreme example made by a very extreme group. Nobody would ever deny that's propaganda because it was literally made to be, and it's even flat out offensive. The one silver lining is the game never achieved actual success, both because people pretty much agree the message is terrible, and frankly the game itself is hot garbage for coming out at the same year as Metroid Prime. Of course, you've got many games in the AAA space that may not be up to that level, but they can still be controversial. For example, Wolfenstein 3D is all about killing German Ends. It literally takes place in the Second Global War and has you taking down the Fuhrer in a pretty badass boss fight. It's not really a controversial game because it sticks to the literal ends that existed during that time. Now compared to Wolfenstein the New Colossus, that seems far more politically motivated, even going so far as to associate them with skin color and retroactively making BJ's dad a good old boy. Even if it's politically the same thing, the German ends and their Fuhrer, it feels far more like it's dragging American politics into it, especially when that end term has become so diluted. Ultimately, when people say they don't want politics in video games, I think we should be more specific and say we don't want propaganda. I think it should either have simple universal stories, or if you're going to talk about something controversial, do so in a mature, nuanced way rather than black and white. Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, is a game I hold dear to my heart, and it talks about controversial issues, but it never holds one side completely virtuous or the other one Saturday cartoon villain. Grand Theft Auto 5 flat out mocks both the left and right wings of American politics with the Republican Space Rangers and Impotent Rage respectively. When you get down to it, I don't think anyone apart from people who agree with the more extreme views in the first place want to be preached to in a video game. The medium of video games has potential for all kinds of amazing things, from purely gameplay experiences to more narrative and atmospheric experiences. I think we can do better than to use them as an instrument of propaganda. They should bring us together rather than drive us apart. If you disagree with anything I've said here or feel you'd like to add your own input, feel free to tell me in the comments below. Let's try to keep this civil. Thank you for watching and I hope you have a great day.